Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to the Geek Podcast, also known as the GB3 Podcast. I am one half of your dynamic duo. I am Geno, the Reel Geno Reynolds.
And I am Bill HeiseNerd. So, this is our first time doing this, so we thought it would be good to kind of introduce what we're going to do this week. We are going to talk about a couple of our big items that happened in 2017, both in like the gaming and tech world and in the entertainment industry. And we are also going to talk about our big subject for the week, and that is nostalgia overload. Is it a thing? Is it not? Guess we're going to find out. So starting up, we're going to go ahead and start talking about some big things that happened to us in 2017, or as far as the industries. So in the tech industry, one of the biggest things that I think happened was the YouTube ad debacle that happened in the spring. So for those that don't know, I mean, this basically all started or kind of came to a head when PewDiePie, big YouTuber, had basically said some anti-Semitic things on his channel, and advertisers, were not happy about this, and seeing other content from other producers and creators, they were not happy and started just pulling advertising, support from Google. And of course, the YouTube community was not happy about this, and it was kind of a big thing. And now after some damage control, it does look like that advertisers have started to return. I guess on my end, I mean, I'm just kind of starting out, and I don't, it doesn't really affect me on any end by any means. What about you, Gene?
Well, I've had no money made on YouTube. I do have an AdSense account, but I don't get enough hits to make any money. That being said, I still have to combat the this may not be advertiser friendly sometimes when I upload a video, especially when I upload my podcast. I swear the longer the video, that's usually when you get hit by that. And it doesn't even matter if you said anything inflammatory or not. It's weird. I've been cleared every time, but still it's just kind of funny to see that stuff pop up. One thing I've noticed, I'm seeing a lot of YouTubers really start to get upset about this, especially the ones, and it's not all of them, but especially the ones that they don't have a million subscribers. It's like they got 100 or 200,000 subscribers. They do this as their job, and I have to say this, I could never see myself supporting myself with a company that won't talk to you, with a company that, you just never know what they decide, what money you're going to get. I guess it used to be really good. Some of the people I talk to, they're happy with what they get. They do it as a hobby, or they just need to make enough for themselves or whatever. But, you listen to these ones that have editors or graphics guys or, tech guys or whatever, and, they're having to try to go to like Twitch and other things to try to support themselves. I just don't know how, you could trust this one company. I mean, I guess when the getting was good, they got it, but I just don't. I could never see it as sustainable, and I can't understand why people can't understand that now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that people are, losing paychecks here, but, I mean, you took the gamble when you decided that this was going to be your primary source of income. I mean, it's just the kind of thing you're going to have even in any other entertainment industry. If you do the wrong thing, guess what? You're going to lose sponsors. You're going to lose a lot of things if you do the wrong thing. And this is the same sort of thing in the YouTube community. I mean, it is what it is. And that's just kind of the environment that you're going to be in.
Well, it just makes me wonder, I don't know how many millions. I don't watch PewDiePie. He kind of annoys me. So I don't watch, but I know he's like the guy. And I don't know if it wouldn't have been him. Like, say if it would have been someone with just like 1 million subscribers or something, if this whole thing would have even happened. I think it's because he has so much influence and so many views, and he makes so much money, and they make so much money off of him, that this happened. I know the things he was trying to do were just stupid jokes, because I know what was that thing where you pay, was it Fiverr, that he would pay someone to write something on a note, and he had him put something stupid on there, and it was really bad. And then I know he did like some Nazi stuff, and yeah, I haven't really followed it much, like I said, because I don't really just follow his stuff. I just read about it in the news. But I just have a feeling that if it wasn't him, they probably wouldn't be in the predicament they're in. And plus, they got slammed with the whole YouTube Kids thing this year too. I don't let my kids near YouTube unless it's a channel I know. But that whole YouTube Kids thing where you're seeing like Paw Patrol characters getting murdered and stuff. So, YouTube is just kind of a funny place that you can't trust either from a business side, from a content side sometimes. I don't see how people could even consider making a living. I know some that do and do very well, but I know some that I know Reckless Eating was a channel. They've been really outspoken because they put in a video the other day and said every one of their videos has been demonetized. Every single one, however many thousands they have. They used to do like 3 a day or something like that.
That's crazy.
And every one of them is done. They're making no money on them, and that's just crazy for one. And they put their whole livelihood in there, and I mean, that's something I even if I was doing well, I wouldn't trust.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing with YouTube is it really is just kind of the best of the internet and the worst of the internet all in one place. So I mean,
that's the truth,
right? Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or?
Oh no, YouTube, I don't trust you. I love you because I can put stuff up there and people can see it, but I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. So, yeah, I'm not really surprised with what they're doing, but like I said, because it was PewDiePie, but I wasn't gonna trust them that much anyway for my livelihood, so it doesn't bother me that much, even if I was making money, because this is a hobby for me for the most part,
right?
And definitely for the most part because I'm not making any money from them. But even if I was making money and it went away, I'd still be doing this, so it doesn't bother me that much. That being said, I have friends that depend on the money that comes from those channels, so I feel bad for them. But you got to be careful with what you put up there, because someone makes a stupid joke like the Pewds, then
right.
Stuff's going to change, and probably not for the better.
It just takes one person to ruin it for everybody, pretty much. So I mean, it is what it is.
Thanks, PewDiePie.
Right. So moving on, this story was actually, I mean, this is a big deal as of just within less than a month ago. So the FCC on December 14th repealed mostly all the legislation that was protecting us, actually was keeping net neutrality in place and protecting us from it not being in place. So, I mean, I guess to put this simply, net neutrality is basically legislation that was put in place to prevent internet service providers from bottlenecking, doing things like regulating what companies get, what amount of bandwidth. It also basically prevented companies from kind of a la carting service. So, like, for instance, I mean, with net neutrality repealed, internet service providers could essentially charge us for particular websites or website packages basically along the same lines as how they charge for cable channels. So, like, let's say you want the social media package to be able to get Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and the like, well, you got to pay X amount of dollars. If you want the video service channel, so you get YouTube and Netflix and Hulu and all of that, well, you got to pay X amount of dollars for that. And now that this is in place, I mean, we haven't seen anything come out of it yet, obviously, because it's been such a short a period of time. But I guess my biggest concern is like, I mean, if we're going to get charged for things like this, plus we're going to get charged by the providers of them, such as Netflix, I mean, we're double dipping here now as far as what we're getting charged for things. Not to mention also the fact that the internet service providers can also regulate the amount of bandwidth that these companies even have. So like they could say, well, Netflix, you're only allowed this much bandwidth on our servers. And so that price, obviously, to them is going to come back on us. So, I mean, it's been a big deal amongst the YouTuber community and the gaming community. From my research, it needs to be put back into place just because I'm fearful just about how much money we're going to wind up spending, on internet service charges and the like.
Well, I got to say this, and I I'll have to practice when I preach it, but I have thought about it a little bit. I'm a little iffy on all what this net neutrality thing is, and even though you tried to explain it, I'm definitely the layman here. I have to say this: we almost have to be ready to give things up if this thing comes into the nightmare that a lot of YouTubers and everyone that have been kind of making it out to be. It's gonna. I'll tell you what, it's gonna do. Say if people, Netflix becomes so expensive that it's no point in buying it. Well, DVD sales will go up. Things like that. A lot of physical copies of things, a lot of physical things are going to come back up again. I'd hate to see things like YouTube and things like that suffer, but I mean, the reality of it is if the companies become that greedy, then it's going to become a reality, unfortunately. And we as, consumers have to be ready to show them with our wallets that we're not going to give into it. Because, if internet becomes so expensive that I can't afford it, well, I'm just not going to get it. I hate saying that because I like having Netflix. I like being able to, look at YouTube and download stuff from Xbox Live and what all the little connected things I like to do. I like to spread, my videos out on YouTube and all the different things that we do. But we almost have to be ready to give it up. I mean, we're going to have to go back to ham radios or something like that as something like this happens. I mean, who knows what all, I mean, I don't know how that's going to affect, over the air digital signals. I mean, does that have anything to do with net neutrality? It's just this whole thing I don't get it. I don't get why they wouldn't want it to be, other than a money thing. I don't get why they would want it to be a thing, because it should just be, we should be able to use it. It's a valuable tool. It shouldn't be, a valuable tool only for those that can afford it.
Well, I mean, it really just has to do, as far as it actually getting repealed, it has to do with the fact that when the director of the FCC was a former executive for Verizon, it kind of says something to you. Okay, obviously this person might be in league with the internet service providers. I don't know. I totally agree with you on the fact that, we always find an alternative, right? We're going to wind up doing something different, but in the end, somebody's going to try and make some money off of that too. So, it's a never-ending cycle. In what you say, I guess one of my biggest concerns is it going to affect what we're allowed to see? I can't even do a simple search for something because this corporation doesn't want me searching about this because they don't want the public to be educated about something. Or, things like that too, that are mildly concerning. Is it, are we getting to the level of, especially if the government were to get involved, how much I get concerned about that. I'm no conspiracy theorist by any means, but there are things that seem like that in the future could be a little bit concerning about this. But then again, I'm just speculating.
Well, I don't think the government should have. I mean, yes, there's things they should be able to monitor. I have nothing to hide, but I don't think, me looking up a stupid video on YouTube should be any of their damn business. Yet it sounds like they want to make it our business because, my God, I might be a terrorist, and it's just dumb. I don't really see their reasoning like I said, other than money. I mean, I don't want to get too political here, but like you said, the head of the FCC, former Verizon guy, our president is a business guy. There's a lot of we like money type guys in government, and even it's on both sides, to be honest.
Right.
But the internet and things like that and the net is a tool that should be able to be used. Schools should be able to use it. Business people should be able to use it. Students, entrepreneurs, everybody should be able to use it, and it should be fair. And like I said, if it becomes something that's a burden, I, for one, and I want to believe I can do this, will be able to just shut myself off from it. Granted, my job wouldn't allow me to. I work for a news station. It wouldn't allow me to. I'd be using it through them. But, I mean, from personal use, if I didn't have Netflix anymore, it would suck, but I'd make do. If I didn't have Xbox Live anymore, it'd suck, but I'd make do. I mean, it'd teach me to, unplug myself a little bit. I don't know. But do I want that stuff to happen? No, because I know I have a lot of fun being able to put videos and online and get my message out there and everything. But if it's going to, be more than my wallet can handle, then it's time to stop. I hate saying that because I love this, but if the government screws it up for me, then they're still not going to get my money.
Yeah, I think just the biggest two things that we can really do as citizens right now is A, speak with our wallets, and B, speak with our voices. If it means getting a hold of any of your representatives or senators or anything, do it. That's what they're there for. Call their offices and let them know you want this back in place. That's the only thing we can really do at this point.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to take over here. I got a couple of good things I want to talk about. First of all, in the entertainment world, there was basically, for me, two big stories. And one of them involves a group of people that I have really no faith in the entertainment world, and that's the Academy.
Right.
I know everyone loves their Oscars, but for me, I lost a lot of faith in the Oscars when Ian McKellen did not win for Gandalf. I'm kind of kidding there, but when I started seeing a lot of the political side of the Oscars, I kind of just, movies for me, they're objective or subjective. We love what we love. You like what you like. I like what I like. There's no, it's the best. It's a group of people that want to put on a fancy night for themselves, put on tuxedos and hand out little naked gold statues. And it's a sticker on a DVD, to be honest, for me. But there was a fun little mix-up this year for Best Picture. Before this last year, they had, and I'll explain why I'm bringing this up in a second, they had the whole Oscar so white thing, right? Where a lot of African-American actors and stuff were saying, well, we're not getting a fair shake. A bunch of old white men run the Oscars, all that. I don't get into the whole political side, but that's what was being said. Yep. So this year, the mishap that happened was for Best Picture. They called up the people for La La Land, okay, and they said La La Land wins Best Picture. Then all of a sudden they said, oh, wait, no, it was Moonlight, okay? First of all, the mix-up was good for me because, in my opinion, Moonlight was a better movie. Moonlight, just for the performances from Mahershala Ali, Janelle Monáe, Naomi Harris, just for the performances alone, it was a better movie. I also like that it was about a man discovering his sexuality, and they handled it tastefully. They handled it the way they should. La La Land, decent performances and musical numbers, and it did have an ending that'll break your heart. But other than that, it was fine. I liked La La Land, but I thought Moonlight was a more powerful film, and I thought it deserved to win anyway. Granted, I picked Hell or High Water for my favorite movie last year, so it's another story. But a lot of people were saying that this mix-up was, oh, they're just making up for, the Oscars so white thing. That's why I can't stand the Oscars. I'd like to hear your thoughts of what you think of the Oscars.
Well, okay. I don't get me wrong. The Oscars and the awards season is like, the Super Bowl season for our family. And I enjoy watching it and everything. As far as most of the Oscar noms, I don't catch a lot of them. To me, when you get, awards like the Golden Globes, the Oscars and everything, to me, that's like essentially the kind of award that you would see, that kind of comes from like, how books get like the Caldecott Medal, children's books get things like that. It's a stamp that says, hey, this is a good film. But it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, this is like the best film. I mean, it's really, it really all comes down to a matter of opinion. As far as the mix up goes, it's funny because the first thing that comes to my mind whenever they mix this up was when Steve Harvey messed up announcing his too. A few months back, and I think he even tweeted something funny about it, and that was pretty tickling to me. As far as it being, because they were trying to be more diverse, I doubt that. I mean, okay, they make the mix up, and then they change it within a 5-minute period. That's not them making that decision because of that. It's because they messed up, Well,
I don't mean the change was the making up for it, It's just that a lot of people were saying that Moonlight won anyway because, they were complaining last year. The whole political side's what bothers me with the Oscars. It's just, you see people that by far had better performances. I'll make an example. Haley Joel Osment and Michael Clark Duncan both got passed up for Best Supporting Actor, got beat by Michael Caine. For Cider House Rules. And I'm sorry. I mean, Michael Caine's good. Don't get me wrong. But was that a Best Supporting Actor role for him? No. We needed to give him an award. And these guys are still new. They do a lot of, like when the Return of the King won. Don't get me wrong. I love the Lord of the Rings movies. They're great. But the first one's the strongest one for me. The last one's a great movie, and I enjoy it. But is it Best Picture of the Year? No, they were awarding it for the process, the 3 years or whatever, of movies being released and everything else. And, the only real award shows that I really at least put any stock into is anything that everyone can vote. Like Viewers' Choice Awards, and heaven forbid the MTV Awards. I know
Right.
I know they have some stupid, nominees and categories and stuff, but at least people get a chance to, voice their opinion. It's not just, this small group of people and we're supposed to, think, well, they're right. This is it because they said so. Because, for an example, like when a movie like Crash wins Best Picture of the year, no, that one won because of its message. It's not a good movie. I mean, I understand the message, but the movie itself just isn't very good. And again, that's my opinion, but it felt like when that one won, it was because they felt that message needed to get out there. And it happens too often. That's why I don't trust the Oscars. I understand people having fun making the picks and having parties to watch it and see what people are wearing and all that stuff. But for I like seeing the musical performances and everything like that. I get that. But as a process itself, I think the Oscars are broken and old-fashioned.
No, I can agree with that. I mean, like when you were saying about, politicizing it, and it could go like any other way. I mean, like people could also, with the fact that it has been politicized, I mean, back when, Heath Ledger won. Now, granted, yes, that was a great performance, but there's going to be people that said, oh, well, it's only because, he passed away. And that's the unfortunate thing when they politicize it like this. So.
Yeah, I don't remember who he was up against that year. I knew he should have been nominated because, I mean, his Joker performance was phenomenal. But would he have won if part of me thinks he got it because he passed away. I mean, I can see him doing that just because I don't trust that group of people, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad he got recognition for that part because he was great and he should. But the fact that I don't think a part of me thinks he would not have won had he not passed away. Would he have been nominated? Yes. And that would have been a big step for superhero movies. But do I think he would have won? I think he had a chance, but granted, I need to see the nominee list. I can't remember who he was against, but I honestly don't think he would have won.
Well, it's just unfortunate. I mean, like that there are so many different performances that don't get nominated and especially like just because like it came out of a blockbuster. I mean, I would probably give a nomination to either Patrick Stewart or Hugh Jackman for Logan. I just watched that a couple weeks back, and I thought that was a fantastic film, and I thought both those actors did a great job in the film.
Well, I've been working on my best of the year lists, and I don't have it in front of me, but I write down every movie that I've seen in the year, and every movie gets a fair shake. I mean, last year I gave Chris Pine Best Actor for Hell or High Water because he was great in it. I mean, yeah, he's, you know, you see him in Star Trek or in Wonder Woman or something like that, and he's fine. You enjoy his performance. But Hell or High Water, he put on a performance that you didn't expect out of him, and that's why I gave him a fair shake. I don't think the Oscars give everyone a fair shake. I don't think that the whole committee sees every movie that's nominated. I heard that this year there's like 340-some nominees for Best Picture. You can't tell me that you saw every one of them, that everyone on that committee saw every one of them. No way. They're voting for their friends. They're voting for political reasons. Everyone, I mean, people are people, and they're going to, you know, vote for their heart probably more than give everything a fair shake. I can't remember how many movies I saw, but it was a lot. My worst list was a whole page long. You know, it gets longer every year. You know, I went through and I try to pick, like, other than Best Actor and Best Actress, all that, I try to pick Best Horror Movie, Best Comedy, things like that, because I don't think comedies and superhero movies and everything get a fair shake. Like you mentioned, Logan. Hugh Jackman finally got to play Wolverine the way we've always wanted to see it. And we knew he was going to be good, but man, did we know he was going to be that good? No. Patrick Stewart, we knew he was great as Professor X. He puts on the performance of a lifetime in that movie, and he's not going to get a fair shake, and that's just crap to me.
Right, and yeah, so, but anyway.
All right, we'll move on. The big story in Hollywood, of course, is Me Too, and you knew we'd probably talk about this.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, here's the thing. A lot of people thought that this would have started with Bill Cosby. And really, well, you know, I mean, he got a lot of coverage and everything. He denied it all the way, but it didn't really start the movement. And I think the reason why it didn't really start the movement because everyone still saw Bill Cosby as like America's dad. I mean, Bill Cosby, if he's proven innocent, I will be excited because he was my favorite entertainer of all time.
Yep.
I mean, I grew up with that guy. I had all the albums. I mean, I wore out my cassette tapes. I've got a VHS tape of himself around here somewhere down in my really cool basement that I'm recording this in right now. I'm freezing, by the way. But no, here's the thing. It gets started with Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And I can tell you why. Because, I mean, I've always thought Harvey Weinstein come off like a scumbag. I mean, granted, this man has produced some of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I mean, he's given a lot of smaller directors big chances like Quentin Tarantino, you know, things like that. He has produced a lot of great movies, but he's always come off, just anytime you would see an interview with him or something like that, he's always come off as kind of a scumbag, and it's come to find out he is, right?
Right.
And
Surprise.
I mean, come on. I mean, is there a more Jabba the Hutt looking guy in Hollywood right now? No. I mean, the dude looks like he would have to pay her force. And I hate saying it that way, but he just looks like he would use power to get what he wants. And he would throw money around to get what he wants. And he would throw parts around. And the epitome of a casting couch. You know, just he always came off that way to me. And come to find out, there's a lot of them now. Are they? There's a lot of accusations out there. We don't know what all ones are true or not.
Right.
That's why we have to be careful with this whole Me Too thing. But, it just started with Weinstein. But here's some of the names of the people that have been accused. And this isn't even all of them. People people in the entertainment industry, celebrities that have been accused. Chef Mario Batali, Nick Carter, Louis C.K., Richard Dreyfuss, Dustin Hoffman, Robert Knepper, Jeremy Piven, Brett Ratner, kind of thrilled, about that one. Steven Seagal, Russell Simmons, Tom Sizemore, Jeffrey Tambor, George Takei, Matt Lauer. I saw that one coming a mile away too. I've always thought thought he was sleazy, and I was right. And then one of the big ones, of course, was Kevin Spacey. And when he was accused, he tried to deflect it by coming out he was gay.
Yeah.
I mean, that man stars in my favorite movie of all time, which is The Usual Suspects. Bryan Singer's another one. There's the director of The Usual Suspects. How do you think I feel about that? So he tries to deflect it, saying, well, by the way, I'm living my life as a gay man. Well, that doesn't,
doesn't give you a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that was okay. Another one was Ben Affleck. I mean, he stood tall against sexual misconduct, and he was like, they're bad, right? And then all of a sudden someone's like, yeah, but you did that.
Well, Affleck doesn't surprise me either, to be honest. So
a lot of the stuff I think with him was when he was younger. And granted, it doesn't mean it doesn't excuse it, but, don't come out, like a knight in shining armor saying, well, I'm standing up for you and I would never do anything. But there's that picture of you grabbing that girl from whatever year. You got to be careful what you say and what you do, apparently. Don't come out acting like, you're like wearing white when, you're wearing the black hat, in your past. So that was a big story for 2017. And honestly, I'm hoping it makes change for the better in Hollywood. I mean, they don't call it Hollyweird for nothing.
Right.
But, just all of a sudden you're hearing people say, well, I heard stories about this guy. Well, I've heard these stories for years, but we never thought anything of it. And all of a sudden we're finding out that Hollywood is weirder than we thought.
Right. Well, I think the biggest thing, too, is that this is just kind of this has really been the year of women empowerment. I think it really just started, especially with the, with the protests and everything that started right after Trump was inaugurated. And then we've got, big movements. Wonder Woman was one of the biggest movies of the year, and that was a very, considered pretty feminist, ordeal. And I think that just the fact that they felt as empowered as they did, and I think that it helped them to just have that courage to be able to stand up against all this that's been going on for so many years. Because let's face it, if this list is as long as it is, you've got to know it's like cockroaches. If you find one, it means there's probably about 100 more somewhere that you don't even know about.
Yeah, these stories are going to keep coming out, and it's pretty sad. Granted, it makes me wonder. Think about it. There's been stories like this for years, like little stories here and there. Think about Roman Polanski. He went on the run because he raped someone, he statutory raped someone years ago and fled the country, and they were celebrating him at the Oscars whenever he did the piano, yep. Right? But all of a sudden it's happening in this country, and it's bad. It seems like, I don't know why it took so long. Maybe, like I said, maybe they needed the right target, and I guess Weinstein was that target. Maybe because he was like one of the most powerful. But it just seems like you've been hearing stories for years, and it should not have taken this long for this stuff to be found out and to be. Granted, I'm sure you're hearing stories. I can't remember who, like Mira Sorvino was one, and I can't remember the other actress. Back when Weinstein, I can't remember if he was with Miramax or not, they were trying to make a deal for Lord of the Rings, and he kept them out of casting because they wouldn't do stuff with him. Yeah. That's just crazy.
Terrible.
You think about how long it's been going on. Think about even decades ago, it had to be worse. Think about what stories we're going to start hearing from the past, about actors from the past that we hold up on pedestals, and they're going to get tore down eventually. And it's, I'm fairly interested to see, where the dominoes are going to fall, to be honest, because I'd like to see Hollywood get cleaned up. Because I think it's a very positive thing, because, I mean, just like anything else, just like any job, getting a job there should be fair, and you shouldn't have to, do things to work. It's pretty sick, and like I said, as long as they're careful, I'm glad this stuff's happening.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that also, like, amongst this that kind of baffled me was that, I mean, there was a lot of talk about them not pulling Johnny Depp from the new Fantastic Beasts film after everything came out about him and his ex-wife and everything. They're still standing behind him. I'm just surprised that they kept him, because, I mean, figuring to save face, they probably would have let him go, but apparently they didn't. So
yeah, I don't know. See, that's what's funny. It's like, well, they're invaluable to this project, so it's okay that they did whatever. It's just kind of weird, because I feel like, I mean, they could easily, put Colin Farrell back in that part,
Right.
A lot. I guess that's what the petition is for. They want Colin Farrell back as, was it Grindelwald? I don't follow Harry Potter stuff very closely.
Well, okay. Talk about people that you wouldn't be surprised. Johnny Depp doesn't surprise me at all. that would have been.
Yeah, he's always come off as a little weird, but I always thought he's just eccentric, and I didn't follow the stories with him and Amber Heard too close, but all of a sudden she's saying he abused her and stuff, and I mean, I don't know if I believe it or not. I don't know if the proof's out there. I don't know if there's. I didn't follow it too closely. He always came off as a weird dude to me, though. But I mean, I'm a weird dude. Granted,
Oh, not that kind of weird.
Yeah, I try to be as good as I can. I'm not perfect, but man, I know right from wrong. You know, and if he's beating up his wife or whatever, it's like, what the hell's wrong with you, man?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess. Well, I got money. I can do what I want. I'm famous. I can do what I want. It's ridiculous. I mean, I know. I mean, look, I'm a Comic-Con guy. I like to go meet celebrities and stuff like that, and I get autographs and pictures and kind of put them up on a pedestal. But we got to realize that they're regular and sometimes weird people too.
Right. All right. Well, I think it's about time to move on to our main subject of the night, and we're going to talk about nostalgia overload. Is it a thing? Is it not? And I think we're going to kind of talk a little bit with each of us, kind of talk about some things that are working and not working, and maybe a little bit of why. I got this idea just because, I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like aren't working, and they're playing on nostalgia just to make money. But so we're going to go ahead and start with some of the things that aren't working. The biggest one that I think is not working with nostalgia is childhood franchises turning into films. I mean, how many bad Transformer films do we need to have before we realize that this is not working?
How much of a rant are you wanting me to go off on bringing up Transformers last night, man?
I haven't seen one since Revenge of the Fallen. So
okay. Let me put it this way. I'll keep it short. Did you love the cartoon movie? The best one?
The cartoon movie is the best film of them.
Well, get ready for Michael Bay to rape it. That's all I gotta say. Because
awesome.
You can kind of forgive him in a way for the ideas he's used before, but when he takes ideas from the good movie and ruins it, plus over sexualizes a 14-year-old girl, it's kind of hard to like Michael Bay for ruining that part of my childhood. But go on.
Again, haven't we not heard any stories about Michael Bay either anyway, but
yet. The key word is yet.
Yet. So Transformers, okay. Alvin and the Chipmunks, how many bad ones of those do we need to have? We've got 2 G.I. Joe films, and apparently that's going to become some sort of mixed universe with other things. And we even got a Jim and the Holograms film. That has nothing to do with Jim and the Holograms.
Well, you heard about the ending to that movie, right?
No.
Okay. Near the end of the movie, you've got this stupid. Look, I didn't watch Jim. I know what it is. I've seen the cartoon. I get the appeal of the cartoon. Okay, it's not my thing, but I get the appeal. I understand, especially why young girls liked it whenever they grew up. But so what they did was they had on either their Facebook page or YouTube channel or whatever, they had people submit videos of them talking about why they love Jim, right? And they're, of course, talking about the cartoon. So the movie decides to take those videos and put it near
they did.
And put it near the end. I sat through this crap. I know. I watched it, and my heart sunk for every one of these people in these videos.
Wow.
They put these videos in the movie like they were talking about the movie version of Jim. As they're doing their last concert, you see all these videos come up saying, well, I love Jim because this, I love Jim because of that. She's forever in my heart, all this stuff. And they're talking about this girl that can barely sing and, a very just stupid movie altogether. And I mean, of course, they probably signed non-disclosure agreements or clicked on a little check mark saying, we can use this however we like. They did not know that was going into the movie, and it made me sick to my stomach. I don't walk out of movies because it's my job to watch them and review them. But, man, that is a deplorable act that almost made me walk out because I felt so bad because this is real people really dropping their heart out for this character they love, and the studios just turn a 180 and use it to their advantage. It was sick.
That's crazy. So I guess I don't know, thoughts of why I don't think that the childhood franchise thing is not working. I guess the biggest thing that I could think of is the fact that these are like small franchises. I mean, they don't have deep lore. I mean, I guess Transformers can in some instance. I mean, we have the comic books and everything like that. But I mean, as far as what people remember, they're going to remember the cartoon series, they're not going to remember that other deep stuff. And the fact that they're just trying to take these things that were essentially commercials for toys back in our, childhood, and trying to make a full-blown film franchise out of it and give it some sort of deep lore, when in all reality, I mean, there's not any of that to be had, and it's a muddled mess, in my opinion.
Well, the problem is that, and we'll use Transformers as an example, but you could throw, G.I. Joe look, I have no delusions. That stuff was there to sell toys. Whenever we were kids, the cartoons, I mean, Transformers, the movie, the one we like, I mean, how many Autobots did they kill off in the first 10 minutes of that movie just so they could introduce new robots that you can buy at Hills? Yeah, we're old. Hills was a store.
How much did we care about that, though?
We didn't, because
not at all.
Here's the thing. Back then, most of the time, they did a pretty good job. It's when they started making toys where how many versions of He-Man can you make? Oh, this one has armor. This one goes into space. This one has a robot arm. It's when they start repeating themselves. When they were creating cool new characters, we didn't care because we liked cool new looking robots and stuff like that. I remember it was one of the coolest days ever when I got, Moss Man and Stinkor and for He-Man, right? Because Moss Man was just a fuzzier version of Beast Man, but he smelled like pine. So cool. I was a kid. Sure, Stinkor was Merman with just a little bit different head sculpt. I didn't care. Heck, all the bodies were pretty much the same.
Yep.
They were there to sell toys, but you know what? They were made into having good lore and stuff like that through comic books. The cartoons, I went back and watched some of the stuff. The old Transformers cartoons were still pretty decent. The movie is especially, I remember that was the first movie I ever cried at. When Optimus Prime died, I bawled my eyes out. Thank God they brought him back, because as a kid, I was just down about that. Yep. But here's the thing. Nowadays, they're just taking it from name recognition. Some of the stuff, you could argue works, especially in the form of comic book movies. I think it just depends on who has their hands on them.
Well, that's just deep lore, and they have a lot to work with.
Well, that's just it. But so does Transformers, but look who's got his hands on it. Michael Bay I'll use one word. I have lots of words for him that I'd probably have to bleep out when I'm editing this. He's a douche. And right. he just thinks, I make robots go boom and people will watch. And as you watch each of the Transformers movies make less and less money after, I think, Part 3, which, by the way, Part 3 wasn't terrible because they finally got some of the robots right. You know, they actually had the attitudes right for the most part. I mean, I can't remember which one had the racist twins. I can't remember which one had...
that's the second one.
I can't remember which one had to have been the one with Devastator with his balls hanging down.
I couldn't do it, man. I just, like, after that, I was done.
Revenge of the Fallen. Yeah, you know, you think Revenge of the Fallen was The Godfather 2 after you see The Last Night.
Wow.
But, yeah, The Last Night is just god-awful. They've only gotten worse, but at least the Battle for Chicago in Part 3 wasn't terrible, you know. But then, you know, the humans were still stupid. They tried to make... That's
the problem.
They tried to humanize these movies that are there to make toys greater. They still try to make them make toys. You know, you see a lot of, you know, I'm sorry, the Transformers, the movie versions look like crap. You know, they look like they're too PC. They don't look like the vehicles when they're robots.
No. You can't tell any of them apart.
Yeah, well, they zoom out.
Especially Decepticons.
What was it, Part 2? They had all those Decepticons, and they all just looked like gray blobs that were getting blown up.
Yep.
And it was just a generic action movie. They just kind of, I mean, literally piss on the lore of Transformers, which if they would have taken some of the cool concepts from the comics, some of the cool concepts from the 80s movie, which they tried to take concepts from the 80s movie and just flat out ruined it in this last movie, because my God, if you watch it, which you probably won't, but what they do to Unicron, I mean, it's worse than the fart cloud that was Galactus in the second Fantastic Four movie. So, you know, there's parts where, you know, I think they could have done a good job. Same thing with G.I. Joe. But, you know, and other things like that, I mean, granted, I mean, there's so many little small franchises that they just need to stop touching or maybe just make TV shows out of. You know, like G.I. Joe, for example, the first movie I thought was okay. I don't love it. I think they ruin a lot. But, you know, the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow stuff's kind of cool.
Yeah,
and then the second movie, the Snake Eyes stuff is really cool. But then you have, like, RZA playing their master, and that was kind of weird. And, you know, they just tried to make it the Rock's franchise and everything. But, you know, they could have done something really cool if you use some of the lore. There's some great comic books about, you know, they kind of used it in the first movie where Zartan takes over the White House. They used that concept. They just did it wrong. And then, of course, they just had to figure that part out in the second movie, and they didn't do anything with it. It's just they wanted to make, you know, different toys. They made stupid decisions with the characters. There's things they could have done with all these franchises that have deep lore. They're just not doing them right because they're putting them in the hands of morons.
Yeah, pretty much. So I guess moving on to another item that I think is not working. I mean, on the overall, I'm going to go with just the massive amount of reboots, remakes, and the sequels that are coming out at much later times. I.e., like Blade Runner. I guess I shouldn't say that doesn't work because I haven't seen it yet. And I think reviews were actually, they were pretty decent for that, weren't they?
I can tell you that it is probably going to make my top 10.
Okay, so then that actually might be one that worked.
I think the smart move with that was they took it out of Ridley Scott's hands.
Okay.
They gave it to another director, and his name escapes me right now. But there was a story about them having to tell Ridley Scott to leave the set. The only problem I really have with that movie is a little long.
Right.
But I mean, it was like 2.5, maybe even close to 3 hours. I can't remember. It was long. At least it felt it. But man, there was some great character development in that. There was only a couple scenes where I'm like, why did you do that? Ryan Gosling's really good in it. Harrison Ford's really good in it. And he plays a supporting part very well. So yeah, I'll give Blade Runner a pass because they let someone else take a look at it. I think if Ridley Scott would have done it, we would have gotten Alien Covenant, which was garbage.
Prometheus.
Or even Prometheus, which the only thing that Alien Covenant did right was it actually, even though it's still not that great, it made Prometheus actually matter. But even though Prometheus is still just a terrible movie in my opinion.
Right.
And Alien Covenant. I can already see where they're going, and we won't get into that today. But yeah, that's a bad example for me of a sequel, especially when the same hands from years ago are on it.
And then, of course, I mean, it came out this year also, but I don't consider that a reboot or a remake because, I mean, there was never a theatrical film of it yet,
it had
so that doesn't count.
What was it? It was like a 2-night miniseries.
Right.
I've seen it. I'm not a huge fan of the TV one.
It's pretty cheesy.
I think Tim Curry's hilarious in it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's things to love about it. I got to say this, though. I mean, the movie itself, I mean, a lot of people were crapping on it before it came out, but, man, I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite horror movies, if not my favorite horror movie from this year, because I've never seen a child, like, ensemble cast so good in a movie since, like, a movie like Stand By Me. And you were juggling, like, 6 or 7 kids there. And then plus Pennywise was creepy. And every now and then there was a couple things in there where I'd just be like, man, that was okay. But the fact that they were smart, they've split it up into 2 parts because at the end of the movie it says, it chapter 1 or part 1 or whatever. That one, I don't consider it a reboot either because, it's just not they're giving it a big budget chance, whereas in the TV version, I mean, look at the cast and things like that. I mean, it's not a big stellar cast, even though, like I said, Tim Curry's great, but the rest of the cast is, people that you don't really know that well and things like that. So, I mean, they were just giving it a big budget chance, which, I know people love that TV version, but I'm sorry, the movie's way better.
Yeah, I have yet to see it, and I will get a chance to. No, I guess my thing is just the countless number of remakes. I mean, even like we've got sequels that are in the books that haven't come out yet and have been in development hell for however long because we know it's going to be a train wreck when it comes out. I mean, how long have they been talking about a Conan sequel with Arnold in it because it's not going to come off the ground? How long have they been talking about the Die Hard sequel or prequel or whatever it's supposed to be, where we have Bruce Willis telling the story about young Bruce Willis, which is a train wreck of an idea because John McClane wasn't supposed to be like this highly trained person or anything like that. When he fought on Nakatomi, he was just a regular beat cop. It's just
yeah, that the key word there is prequel. It's like, hey, we've run out of ideas for old John McClane. Let's see what we can do with young John McClane. Yeah, the Conan sequel, I would say, has been in development ever since the end of the last movie because he was sitting in the throne saying it was a tale for another day.
Right.
So it's been a long time. Even though that was one I was sort of interested in, because I would like to see Old Man Conan, because especially after seeing the remake of Conan.
Oh, right.
Which was terrible. I mean, say all you want about Khal Drago, that Conan movie was terrible.
Well, you can only work. You can't act your way through bad writing,
No. I mean, it was a cheesy action movie. I mean, when the kid version in that remake was better than the adult version of Conan. And of course you have Ron Perlman as his dad, and of course Daddy has to die at the first. It just kind of goes downhill from there. The thing is, with remakes and stuff, it's like they're almost out of original ideas. I understand them wanting to do, like, okay, we get it. We had another Spider-Man movie in 2017. That was out of necessity.
Yeah, I mean, that was because the last franchise was a train wreck. Oh man, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is so bad. We don't want to go into that.
I mean, think about it. I mean, this is how it works. Okay, we got, they had the 3 Spider-Man movies, and of course the third one. I know some people are like, well, I like that one. It's bad. I mean, Dancing Peter Parker. You ruined Venom. How many bad guys is Peter Parker gonna forgive? I mean, I get tired of that. And then of course they reboot it. And they have The Amazing Spider-Man, which I thought was okay. It had promise, and I was looking forward to seeing where they're going to go with it. And, of course, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 just sucked. I mean, there's no defending that movie. I don't care anybody says, oh, Andrew Garfield's so good. No. Him and Emma Stone had no chemistry. They fit how many stories into that thing?
Yep.
You know, it was just a mess. And, of course, Sony knew it, and they released it anyway because they knew it'd make some money. And then they knew that they had to, you know, talk to Marvel because people weren't going to sit through a third Amazing Spider-Man movie. They knew that they had to talk to Marvel because Marvel would do that right. And sure enough, Homecoming comes out, and they did it right. It's sad that it took, in Civil War, however long Spider-Man's in there, what, say a half hour? It took a half hour for them to repair the damage of 2.5 terrible Spider-Man movies.
That's all it took. It's crazy. But, yeah. So, I guess moving on from films, and I talked about this actually on my last episode, and this may be yet to be determined because, I mean, this is kind of a newish trend, but now the re-release or the reinstating of older TV shows coming back. I mean, like, for instance, Will and Grace started back up again this season. Roseanne is starting again this spring. And I just heard that Mad About You apparently is coming back with the original actors. And I don't know. And then we also have Fuller House, of course. I mean, not all the original cast is on there, but apparently now they are coming back from what they did on the last episode of season 3. But I don't know. I'm a little torn about this because I think that we're just seeing these older actors and writers have spent up the money that they made from when they ran these shows the first time, and they realize, oh, well, we don't have any good ideas, so let's just go back to what we know works and see if the people start watching it again. I don't know.
Well, Will and Grace is an example, and I work for an NBC station, so I had to see those promos come back. It's like, I didn't watch the show the first time, so... But it's like, well, Deborah Messing had that whatever Mysteries of Laura show that failed miserably. I can't remember what the dude that plays Greg was on, and I think he got fired, if I'm not mistaken, from his last show. And I don't know what the other's doing. I know Megan Mullally did a stand-up thing with her husband, and yeah, that was great. But I don't think she was doing much else. It's like, well, let's just go back to what we know. And, you know, and you're seeing that, you know, it seems like, I mean, they brought back Prison Break after they stopped it. And I didn't watch the newer one. I watched all the original, and I watched the movie and everything that they did. And it just, they keep bringing this stuff back because it's like, well, no one's watching. What can you do? Well, let's bring back X-Files. People like that. You know, it's just things like that. And it's not, you know, there's two different kinds. There's like the Fuller House, where it's not the original series, but it's like a continuation spinoff, or it's just, well, whatever season we left off from, you know, from this show, let's go back to it. I don't know what season.
How in the world are they even? How are they even going to do Roseanne? I mean, I don't. Do you know how that show ended?
Yes.
How are they even going to do that?
Well, yeah. Dan died. The whole thing was her writing a book.
Right.
I can't remember. I know DJ, like, didn't he like go off to war or something? He like joined the army or something. And then I guess the daughters in real life were dating each of them. Like, they flipped the boyfriends.
Yep.
But she thought it would be more interesting if she mixed them up and there'd be tension there. And it was all this weird, because that whole season before that was the whole we won the lottery season. Everything was wacky. And then they're like, well, we're canceling it, so we better wrap it up. And yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to explain Dan's back, because the whole thing was her writing the book to cope that he died, you know. Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they just keep bringing this stuff back. I mean, who knows? Maybe Cheers is going to open back up before we know it.
We're going to get Friends and Seinfeld before it's all said and done.
I mean, I know. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to. That's just it. They keep trying these original ideas. They don't give them enough time to really work. I mean, look at a show like Constantine. It got like 12 episodes to try to work. Granted, it should not have been on NBC in the first place, but, you know, on a good network where it could actually be what it's supposed to be, it probably would have worked.
Would have worked in the CW.
Yeah,
probably.
Well, and they brought that character back, I guess. I don't watch those shows, but I guess they brought back that actor. They brought back Matt Ryan to be on, it was either The Flash or on Arrow or something. And, so I think they're working on making him a character there because they've got all those franchises and everything. But it's just, they're not giving any, they cancel so many good shows over the years. I liked Firefly. I don't know. I don't ever want to see it come back, especially after watching Serenity.
Yeah.
But, I think it would be a bad idea because I don't think it would live up to the expectations. I think
exactly.
Especially since they killed off characters in Serenity. And I think the actor that played that priest or whatever, didn't he die?
I think he did, actually, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, they'd have to explain that.
Well, they killed him off in Serenity anyway, so, but then they killed off Soap, and was his name, the pilot? Was it Soap? Wash. It was Wash.
I don't
See, it's been a while.
Well
it's Wash. Soap. I'm thinking of Punisher, I guess. They just keep wanting, I'd hate to see that one come back because I think it would disappoint. I think fans would be happy for a little while, but look, X-Files is coming back, and a lot of people I know love X-Files, but they're not too excited. They're bringing it back again. They did the movie, the first movie. Then they had one or two more seasons or something like that. And then they had another movie after they were saying they were only going to do one. And
they did Arrested Development like that too, where they brought it back on Netflix.
Oh, that show, the first few seasons of that show, I liked. That Netflix season where they couldn't get all the actors together on set, so they had to do individual stories, that was about pointless. There was some decent humor to be had, but if you can't get all the actors together, and that was everyone's big complaint about that is, well, they had all these separate stories and you barely could get these two people in the same room at the same time. What was the point? I want to see them try more original things. Look, I grew up with Law & Order. I love the original Law & Order, but, man, I don't want 57 spinoffs of it. Granted,
we don't even have the original.
Yeah,
they can't. SVU is the only thing that runs now.
Yeah, and of course that one started to get good again, and then they canceled it. And then, they got SVU, and then they start was it Chicago Fire? Chicago, I guess we ran out of stories. We ran out of stories in New York, so I guess Dick Wolf had to move to Chicago. And now we got like 3 shows there. Everyone wants a connected universe, or everyone wants to bring back these shows that have been on forever when they just need to come up with an original concept and give it a shot.
Yep, absolutely. And then I guess another little fun thing I wanted to kind of add on things that may possibly not be working. I threw products in here as well. It seems like that over the last couple of years we've just seen some resurgence of things like Surge, for one, and Crystal Pepsi. And let me tell you, I got my one fix off of each of those and realized, wow, there's a reason why they didn't sell these or continue selling this.
I don't know. I still love me. Surge was okay. I still love me the Crystal Pepsi though. It did taste like my childhood. And what's funny is you bring that up. I didn't buy any, but the other day I believe I was in Target and they had New York Seltzer.
Oh, yep.
And it was even in the glass bottles. Which was weird.
It's funny. That didn't taste as well as I remember it either.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what did, though, and I wish they would have kept it permanent, was they brought Ecto Cooler back last year for the Ghostbusters film. Oh, man, I didn't even talk about Ghostbusters.
Oh, well, that's just it. Well, I'll just say this. First of all, I remember trying it when I was a kid, and I didn't get my hands on any of it this time, and I was mad. That being said, if the Ghostbusters movie would have been any good, they might have kept it around, especially if they were going to have a sequel. That movie was terrible.
It was really limited where they were keeping it too, because I couldn't find it in any supermarkets around here until I went to a Hy-Vee over I think it was in Springfield, the one in Springfield, and they had a good selection of it, so I just snagged up 3 of the 10 packs of the juice boxes and took them home, and it tasted just the same as I remember it. So the funny thing about that is it reminds me of my grandparents used to get it anytime we would come and visit their their place in Iowa. So like it reminds me of that when I was a kid.
Yeah, and you didn't save me any. Thanks a lot, Bill.
Oh, I know, right? That's all I had really for things that are not working. Anything that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, this goes a little both ways. Collectibles, and you probably got that on your list of things that work. I would have to put it on both, because for every collectible that is nostalgia based that works, I'm looking at my Luke Skywalker hooded pop vinyl right in front of me.
Right.
And I have a wall full of them over there. But, there's cool things that work, but it seems like they're trying too hard to make collectibles work nostalgia.
How many monthly subscription boxes are there going to be before,
Well, I know
we got Loot Crate and the like.
Right. Well, there's
I
so
shouldn't
many.
say that because, what if we end up having Loot Crate be a sponsor someday? But
we love you, Loot Crate. Well, look, I know there's like Loot Crate and there's tons of other ones out there. Funko they have a Star Wars one, which I actually get. And I've actually been very satisfied with because of the exclusives that are in there are kind of cool.
Yeah.
They've got one for DC. They got one for Marvel. I think they're working on another one, but I can't remember what it is. There's video game boxes out there. There's whatever. There's a box for everything. Every comic book store website has one now. Superhero stuff and guys like that have their own boxes. You just have to kind of find what works for you. Like I said, I only get the one. I got a couple of the Marvel ones and I thought they were okay. But then you'd see, they're starting to repackage toys that look like, if it started with, the packages look like the old Kenner, Star Wars packages. And I thought that was kind of cool because, they were putting the newer figures in the Kenner packages. Okay. I get that. But then I start seeing it, figures that look like the old Star Wars figures for every movie imaginable. The first ones I saw, when I see, Vince and Jules from Pulp Fiction looking like Star Wars characters in an old Kenner looking package, I'm thinking, okay, I started looking that stuff up. They have stuff for every movie you can think of for those. And that's just those.
There should be a cutoff date, really.
Funko has anything you could think of, pretty much. Companies like Mezco, they're not as big anymore, but they would release everything. Anything you can think of, there is a product for it now, and it's definitely overload. Even when it comes to Funkos for the Pops, I have to limit myself because it's like, well, I kind of only need this one. I liked this character, so I'm going to get this. If there's only two in the collection, I bought the Tron ones the other day. There's only two. There's Tron and Sark. Why no Flynn? I don't know. But there isn't. There's only the two, so I bought them. But if there was like 17 in the collection, yeah, I'm going to pick and choose because it makes my wallet hurt and cry to see all the money come out of it when I start seeing things that I really want nostalgia-wise. And there's just too much of it nowadays. Like I said, there's some cool stuff out there, but there's also an extreme overload that just is unnecessary.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. On the note of the pop vinyls and the collectibles, though, one of the things that I kind of tuned into that I kind of like is Lego has kind of come out with their answer to pop vinyls called Blockheads. They're kind of like a stand-up collectible of like different characters. Like, for instance, I just recently got one that was Captain America and one that was Jack Sparrow, but you have to build them. So it's kind of it's a little fun thing to do before you actually have it standing up on your shelf. So, but
yeah, I don't know if I've seen those. Is it like the Star Wars ones where it's like a whole character and it's like a foot tall, or they
no, they're the tiny. No, they're like the tiny little things. They're almost about the size of a pop vinyl, and they kind of got like cute little eyes and stuff. I think there are a couple Star Wars ones out now too for The Last Jedi. I think they came in like 2 packs or something like that. They're kind of neat though.
Well, thanks. It looks like I'm going to be looking for them now. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for spending some more of my Christmas money, buddy.
Oh, absolutely. I aim to please. I guess moving on to what is working. one of the big things I think that is working as far as nostalgia and using nostalgia goes is when they, rather than create or recreate something that already exists, it's taking those themes and those ideas and paying homage to them in a new fashion. The biggest one that hits me, and I know I tease you all the time about not seeing this yet, but Stranger Things,
and I still have it,
is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Just due to the fact that let's take the themes that, you know, the creators like Stephen King and Spielberg and them in the you know, the early 80s kind of came out with, and let's make something new with that. And let's take some of the actors that were popular in that time frame, make them the adult characters, and, you know, it really, really, really gels, and it really works. I mean, even the new Stephen King's it doesn't. I mean, obviously, it's taking something that straight up was Stephen King, but the idea of it also, for its time period piece, kind of, you know, I mean, people that are going to go watch this grew up in the 80s. So, and am I right that the recreation is set back in the 80s, not back in like the 50s, like the original, right?
Correct. Yeah, they.
Okay.
I believe the original was like the 50s, and then this time it's. I mean, it's definitely taken. Though I haven't seen it, I've seen previews and everything. It's definitely taken inspiration from Stranger Things, because it's definitely. It has that 80s vibe, and it's definitely set in the 80s because they want the I can't remember the exact number. It's 30-some years or whatever, you know, passes each time that Pennywise comes back. It became the 80s because they wanted when he comes back to be now. So it added up to that. I can't remember exactly what year in the 80s, but yeah, it was definitely set in the 80s, and it definitely felt 80s.
Right. I guess another thing, too, that I think kind of really works, and along with paying homage, not even really paying homage, but just taking old themes, and it could even be like, I guess as a gamer, I could think of these things. There are, so like the biggest thing that came to me for as far as the gaming community goes, Zelda Breath of the Wild, the newest Zelda game, came out this year, and I pretty much think that it might be one of the best ones in this franchise, just due to the fact that it really pulled back to it took the formula that's kind of worked for Zelda for so many years since the mid 90s, but instead it went back to like the one from the original 80s, where it's a completely open world. You don't really know where to go. Everything is, you know, exploratory, and it was just a really fantastic experience. Another one that really worked for me, it wasn't this year, but last year, the year before last, was the remake of Doom on PC. You know, the one that came out before it was a survival horror game, where this one was back to the just straight up quick action, run and gun style of the original Doom. And I think when you take those things, it does play on nostalgia to some extent, but you're also, you know, adding a new twist to it and making it, you know, more modern. I really like that as well. I don't know, what do you think kind of is working for you, Gene?
Well, when it comes to video games, I mean, you're definitely right. There's two ways you can look at it. Either one, you can take an old gaming type, like say run and gun, like say a Contra, and add a new spin to it. I mean, just look at Cuphead.
Oh man, that game is great.
I mean,
just picked that up.
I've never played it, but I've watched people play it. I mean, I love that art style, and I mean, I'm not going to get started into the politics of the era. I mean, it's just the art style I mean, that's an amazing art style, and then you add it to something like I mean, it's almost like a Gunstar Heroes or a Contra or something like that, where it's just, you know, run and gun bullet hell. Okay, so you got like that, or you take an old franchise like you mentioned, a Zelda. I mean, I barely played the Zelda games. I think the last one I played was the SNES one, to be honest with you.
Right.
So it's been a while. But then that's just it. If they're taking thematically and gameplay wise what you love, but updating it, that's a way of doing it too. I mean, then you can, the ways that you do it wrong, and they did it, I think they're a little better now because they're giving people what they want. But look at games like Madden. I mean, every 3 years they would finally update some things on that game, graphic wise. It'd be like these 3 years, everything looks and plays the same, just got an updated roster. You're paying an extra $60-$70 for an updated roster, which I think now they do more updated rosters like as downloads now, because people are just getting, when people finally get fed up with EA, that's when they actually make something happen. I mean, we probably don't need to get started on the whole Battlefront 2 thing, but if you're talking nostalgia, like I said, there's two ways you can look at it. It's either give them an old game type you like with a new coat of paint and a new story or something like that, like I said, Cuphead or something like that, or you take the existing franchise like the ones you mentioned and make it work, because no one's going to want to buy the same. I mean, I don't know how people bought Call of Duty every year. I mean, they finally we made it the future this time. Well, so what? It's still Call of Duty. It's still multiplayer. It's the same thing, and I just don't get how people, I guess, people like to, yell at each other with racially insensitive remarks over online too much, that they kept buying it every year. But, I like, when I buy a game, I don't buy a lot of games anymore. And I can tell you, as someone that's played through I don't know how many Lego games in a row because my son likes them, I'm getting tired of playing it because it's the same thing every time. I mean, it's still fun because my son's enjoying it, but playing through the same thing over and over and over again just gets old, and that's what a lot of bigger companies are doing. And that's why I appreciate companies like Nintendo putting new spins on their old franchises. That's why I appreciate, think about what they did with Mario Maker. It's a lot of the old stuff, but then look what you could do with it. It's like a dream come true. It's like a modder's dream come true. And then, like I said, look at games like Cuphead, where it's like, well, people love games like Gunstar Heroes. Well, let's give them something new to look at. And they gave one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my life.
Soundtrack on that is really great too.
Yeah, so it's stuff like that. If you can do it right, it's welcome, but it can also be done wrong. But like I said, that's why I appreciate the companies and the indie studios that still take their love of gaming seriously and try to offer people something new.
But yeah. Anything else you can think of working in the nostalgia department? Or
I lived with nostalgia for so long, and because think about it nowadays with movies and TV, with the effects that they can pull off and stuff now. Stuff from my childhood is finally becoming reality, whether it be good or not.
Right.
The Marvel movies, don't get me wrong, I love most of them for at least some reason or another, but sometimes it's a crapshoot. That being said, dial it back before Iron Man, some of those you weren't going to be able to pull off. Heck, some of them they ruined. No. Look at the old Captain America, and I got a little bit of love for the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, but they're just, look at the old Spider-Mans. I love the old Incredible Hulk, but they're fun because they're cheesy, not because they are amazing. With what they're able to do now, I'm happy that they are bringing some of that nostalgia back. I just wish they would be a little bit more choosy. I want to see big budget G.I. Joe. I want to see good big budget Transformers. I'm a little excited for Bumblebee because Michael Bay isn't in charge. And it's got Haley Steinfeld in it, and I think she's an amazing actress. And Bumblebee, it's in the 80s, and Bumblebee's actually a freaking VW bug.
That makes sense.
There's a lot of hopeful positives there. It's just too bad we had to sit through 5 movies of crap to get there.
Right.
I just wish they would be a little bit more choosy when it comes to what they label nostalgia. For all the cool stuff that there is, there's way more crap out there. And that's unfortunate because, everyone wants to make a buck off of it, whether it's good or not.
Right. I guess in conclusion, I would say, yes, there's a lot of stuff out there we have to sift through that's bad. But I guess it's just nice that, you know, we're able to do this now, and we're able to pull off making these things that we really enjoyed as kids, you know, into something now. And, you know, we'd have to take that gamble that, you know, there's going to be the bad stuff amongst it, but for every bad one, you know, for every so many bad ones, you get something that's really good. I mean, we had the Marvel Cinematic Universe to thank for that in most points, but
well, you know, when we talk about that, and I'll just say this briefly, you know, as much as the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a good thing, it's also a bad thing because now everyone wants it.
Absolutely.
And I mean, when I saw that they're doing, I mean, as much as I love most of the Conjuring movies, now there's a Conjuring universe, you know, and now you know, DC wants it, and then there's the dark universe with the Mummy, and which may just, I think, if probably going to get canceled. It's just everyone wants it, and no one wants to do it right. You know, Marvel at least, you know, it's gotten a little too big for its britches, if you ask me. But I think after the next one, they're going to pull back and start doing more team movies, which I'm okay with. You know, just like team ups and stuff. I'm okay with that because it can only get so big.
We have a door kicked wide open with Marvel now, anyway, because of, you know, we have two big franchises that just got added. So we'll have to see how everything turns out. But no, I think shared universes would be a good subject for another day.
Yeah, it's definitely. I got a lot of ideas, and I know you do too.
Right. You want to plug your channel for a little bit?
Yeah, I am Geno Reynolds, the Reel Geno. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff at the Reel Geno, ReelGeno.
All right, and I am found as HeiseNerd. That is youtube.com/HeisenErd, no extra N. You may also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/HeisenNerd1, and I would love to get some feedback from you.
Well, that's going to do it for the inaugural Geek B Cubed podcast, the GB3 Podcast. Bill, it's been interesting. You know, I enjoy having someone to talk to about this stuff. You know, I sit in my program, get on the mic every week, and, you know, it's nice to get my ideas out there, but I also have to say it's good to talk to an old buddy and get his feedback too and have someone to bounce stuff off of.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, HeiseNerd Speaks has been good, you know, the last few weeks, and I think it's really good to be able to bounce ideas off of somebody else, and it kind of, you know, a conversation is a little bit better than kind of talking to, you know, dead air.
Well, that's going to do it for us, everybody. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the GB3 channel. That's Geek B Cubed on YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Talk to you later.